Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica and I'm a speech language pathologist. And if you're new here, I am so happy you're here. You have stumbled upon my series on neurodiversity and neurodivergence. This is my fourth video in the series. And today we're going to be talking about ways that we can help our neurodivergent students reduce masking and increase self-advocacy. I want to mention before I dive into the video, this is an excerpt from a professional development course I am creating. If you think this is something you would be interested in having a training on for maybe your staff or your teachers, please join my email list, or you can, kind of check in on my website. I will be getting a page on that coming soon. So, and I will give you more updates here as I get ready to launch it. But I am so excited about this content and I honestly need to practice presenting on it. So here we are. Without further ado, let's talk about how we can help our neurodivergent students reduce masking and advocate for themselves. So my last video was on what is masking and why it is bad. So today, let's focus on how we can improve basically the well-being and mental health of our students by reducing masking and advocating for themselves. Okay, I think I've said that way too many times. So I have eight strategies that I'm going to share with you today on ways to do this. So let's start with strategy number one, and that is to approach with an attitude of curiosity. So as educators, we want to not just assume and not just like, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. You do this, Johnny. We want to instead approach with an attitude of curiosity. We want to ask questions. So maybe we can ask, hey, Johnny, why do you flap your hands? Johnny, what can I do to make you more comfortable? Why do you enjoy making noises? What do you think will help? Do you think a wiggle seat will help you focus? What do you like about shaking your toy? So helping us, asking questions that will help us understand our student or our child better. So again, strategy number one is approaching with an attitude of curiosity. And this is really important, this asking, what do you think will help? You being our student. Johnny, what do you think will help? We want to give Johnny, our student, a voice. On this same idea, I have created a student-led self-reporting sensory survey. And I know these are really like long words, but basically what it is it is a survey where students report on their sensory needs, but it is student-led. So I have a couple different versions of, I enjoy looking at things from different angles right here, and you can see that it's kind of like a multiple choice thing. But I also have a version that is more like an open-ended version, and then a version that is just kind of like the questions written out if you want to just kind of have a guided conversation with your student to learn more about their sensory needs. And then also in this resource, I have some possible interpretations for teachers or parents that can help you know, okay, if my student is reporting this, maybe this can help to, alleviate some of that discomfort or help to, kind of help them be more comfortable or able to pay attention better in my classroom or at home. So I am going to link that in my description, and I will link it in probably all the videos. I'm writing a note to myself so I don't forget to do that. So anyways, this can give you some more information, and it is student led. So this is the student having a voice, the student reporting and advocating for themselves with this survey. And I like that also because a lot of these children, they know they have some sensory differences, but they don't have words to explain what these differences are. And so in one of my other videos, I mentioned that I feel like my role as both a parent and as a speech pathologist is to help my children learn to advocate for themselves. And part of learning to advocate is being educated. And so our students need to be educated on how to explain what is happening in their body so that they can share it with other people. So that is why I created this student-led self-report of sensory needs. Okay, strategy number two, naming the disorder or the difference. There was a study done in 2022, and it is wondering, looking to see, does teaching children that they are autistic lead to better outcomes? And the results of that study indicated that yes, it does. And so by naming the disorder or the difference, this really benefits our students because children who learn about their autism earlier have a higher quality of life and well-being as an adult. They may feel a sense of relief in discovering that there is an explanation for their differences and learning that they're not alone. Other people have these differences and these experiences. And that positivity tends to grow with age as they discover other autistic individuals. So specifically, the study was done on autistic individuals, but the same concept can be held true for sensory processing disorder, neurodivergence in general, or any other kind of disability, is my personal belief. So you want to make sure you get parental consent. Not all parents are okay with this. So I am going to add that disclaimer, but I do think you should strongly advocate and educate parents and inform them on why it's important to name this disorder and that it really does have positive mental health benefits, especially long-term as students grow older. Okay, strategy number 3. Okay, so shifting your perspective, and this your is you, the educator or the parent. So what I mean by this is really kind of being aware of your self-talk and your mindset. As I frequently tell my own children, your mind believes what your mouth says. So we need to be very careful about what comes out of our mouth, the way that we say things, the way that we word things, and we also need to try and catch ourselves when we're thinking some of these things to shift our mindset and to shift the way that we are perceiving things. So just to give you a couple of examples, if you walk into your classroom and you're like, this is gonna be a hard year. And every day you come in and you're like, this is hard, I don't like it, this is why me? Your perspective instead could be, this student or these children are going to help me be a better teacher, or they're going to help me be a better speech language pathologist. So again, we took it from negative to positive. Maybe instead of saying, that student is so stubborn, instead our thought could be, okay, this student knows what they need, and how can I help them get what they need? Or what if instead of why me? Why is this happening to me? You could say, I have an opportunity to help this student and to make a difference in their life. So again, we really want to practice thinking and saying things in a positive way, rather than, kind of a negative thing, trying to catch that negative self-talk before it comes out of our mouth, and making sure that the words we say are encouraging, positive, lifting people up, because our words have so much power. Okay, strategy number 4 is encouraging special interests. And there was, for a long time, even when I first started as a speech pathologist, this idea that we need to not allow students to talk about their special interests or their, restricted interests. And I say that kind of with that, it's kind of that mindset thing again, like restricted has this connotation, But special interest sounds a little bit more positive. And we want to encourage these special interests for a couple of reasons. One being that these special interests give our students like these positive feelings, like, you know, they make them happy. They bring them joy. Do we understand why this child is obsessed with black rabbits or red and white vacuum cleaners? No, it doesn't bring me joy, but it brings them joy. And so if I tell them to stop talking about something that they love, it's going to, again, bring back those feelings of masking, and they're going to feel like they have to mask and they can't talk about some of the things that they want to talk about. And you won't get to know who that child really is if you are making them mask and cover up who they are. And these special interests are part of who they are. So encourage them where you can, listen when you can, explain that there is a time and place for talking about special interests. You know, maybe you can look for certain times that they can, you know, use those special interests. Maybe they could write a report on it or do a research project, or, you know, maybe you can just spend a few minutes at recess listening to them talk about it. And then there will be times when you have to explain, okay, I have loved listening to you talk about black rabbits, but now it is time to talk about our math. So teaching them to balance it, but also teaching them that I want to talk to you and I want to listen to you and what you have to say. So encouraging those special interests is going to be a great way to help reduce masking in particular. Okay, strategy number 5, taking sensory needs into account. So this could mean for educators making sure you have sensory tools at school. It could be, again, doing this sensory self-report that gives you more information on how you can help your students, and then getting the tools that you need to help them be successful in your classroom. I think it would be most beneficial if your student is able to, you know, kind of explain to you their needs or their experiences or how their body feels and works. Take some time to listen to that and then get the appropriate tools, or maybe, you know, communicate with parents and be like, hey, you know, can we get some of these sensory things that maybe you're using at home, something like that. So that could mean maybe having kick bands on the desk, or it could be having a space for your students to walk around in the back of the room. It could be just not critiquing sensory differences. I had a teacher that I worked with one time talk about a toe walker and how she would constantly correct this child for toe walking. And she asked, you know, what my thoughts were on that. And I said, well, I don't really care about it, because at the end of the day, I hope that somebody toe walking, if that's what they need to do to regulate their body and feel good. I know that there are reasons why it's not great, but for most purposes, like, I'm not too concerned about it because he's doing it because he needs to. So not a big deal. Well, the teacher said, yeah, but when he's 40 years old and he's walking through the grocery store, people are going to think he looks weird. What is that going to induce? It's going to induce masking. So we want to not induce masking or make it any worse than, you know, it would be naturally what the student is just going to develop on their own. We don't want to, like, you know, constantly correct students because they're going to look weird. We want to encourage their sensory needs to do what they need to do to be successful and be as comfortable at school as possible. And kind of like how we already talked about in my other video, these students are trying to hold it together all day at school. It's exhausting for them, physically, mentally, emotionally. It is hard. And so when we keep trying to make sensory things like so they look normal, we don't give them sensory tools so they look normal, or we're constantly correcting flapping or toe walking or spinning or whatever it is so they look normal, I have issues with that. So take those sensory needs into account. make your classroom as sensory friendly as possible, or your home as sensory friendly as possible. This is just something I feel strongly about, if you can't tell. Strategy number 6 is teaching self-advocacy. Again, this is why I created this survey that is again linked in the description. Because as I've already said, as a speech pathologist and as a parent, it is my job to help my students and my children learn the vocabulary that they need to advocate for themselves. At the end of the day, if we want to be able to hear neurodivergent voices and we want to be able to hear autistic voices, they need educators who are teaching them how to use that voice. And that means not just speaking, but like giving them vocabulary, giving them words to use, giving them a platform, giving them an ear to listen, like, you know, a listening ear so they can talk, asking those questions. That is part of our job as educators and as parents. Again, teaching our children self-advocacy, it's so important. Another thing that I have been experimenting with is books on neurodiversity and sensory processing disorder, autism, and I found a couple online. Okay, so these are just a few that I have been using personally. The ninja books, my kids really like. They think that it's pretty cool to be compared to a ninja. So I do recommend the ninja books. It's very simple language to explain these differences. So I recommend, reading books like that, getting them familiar with this concept of neurodiversity and neurodivergence and autism, sensory processing disorder, dyslexia, whatever it is, ADHD. What I like about these books is it gives you vocabulary to help teach your child, to give them the vocabulary that they will need as they grow up and learn how to advocate for themselves. As we're teaching self-advocacy, we want our child to be able to identify what is going on and give it a name. So, going back to the story from my masking video about the little boy Jose who liked to flap or shake his doll, sorry. He needs to be able to identify that he does shake his doll, and he needs to be able to identify and name why he likes to do that and describe what is happening. So Jose needs to be able to say, I like to shake my doll because I like to watch the movement and my arm hurts if I don't do it. When I shake my doll, my body feels better and my brain can concentrate. So all of those steps, Jose needs to be able to explain. Obviously Jose is a made-up student, but explain what is happening, what is going on, to help other people understand what their neurological experience is like. Okay, strategy number 7, finding positives in neurodiversity. And this can be difficult. It kind of goes along with that changing our mindset. So helping your student find some of the positives could be that neurodivergent people are often very creative or innovative, particularly in their special interests. So if a student has a special interest that, again, we're wanting to foster and we're wanting to help them develop, they're like an expert a lot of times in that particular area. And that gives them a unique perspective to maybe see problems or solutions or things in just a different way, to create something different or to make it better, or to understand how something works better than maybe a neurotypical person wouldn't. It can lead to more imaginative solutions, out of the box thinking. Again, these neurodivergent people can be great at problem solving. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. Again, I feel like as it relates to special interests or things that these people find very interesting, is where they're going to excel. So we really do want to encourage these special interests, because these are going to be the areas where we are going to see the most positivity. I guess, if that makes sense. Neurodivergent students can also pay really good attention to detail. They can help identify gaps, ideas, or information that other peers might miss. They look at the world in a different way. And again, because all of our neurological experiences are different, we can't necessarily understand the way somebody else sees the world. But these neurodivergent individuals see the world in a different way than a neurotypical person, and it helps them be able to spot things, see gaps or differences that a neurotypical person would just miss because of the way our brains work and the way our brains are different. So these are not the only positive things. You keep an eye out. Like, I just love, like, one of my favorite things as an educator is how different all of my students are. I just, I find it fascinating, and I find them fascinating as a person. That I don't know. I love seeing all of my students, but the neurodiversity and the neurodivergence in, okay, why do you like black rabbits? Why do you like vacuum cleaners? Why do you like outer space? Why do you like cars? Why do you like doing this? Why? Again, it goes to that why. I just find it fascinating. So they are so beautiful, and all of our differences are so beautiful. And I guess that is the biggest positivity that I see, is it makes our world more colorful. And it is like that example I gave in another video. It is like a garden of flowers with different textures and different colors and different smells and all these different things that come together. And there is so much beauty in that. And are there challenges? Are there thorns sometimes? Yes, there are. But man, that rose is beautiful, even with its thorns. And it smells so good. And I love having it in my garden. Okay, strategy number 8. And this one is difficult, except that it won't be perfect, because this is a challenging road. Even if you implement all of my other strategies, you're still going to have bumps in your road. And some bumps may be really big, and there may be some challenges, because there is no perfection. It is a day-to-day learning, processing, and then pivoting again. And then, okay, that didn't work. How can I do it different this time? What can I do better? What can I learn? What questions can I ask? And sometimes these students, with their differences, particularly some of these sensory differences, it's challenging for them. Like I said, they're working really hard just to try to, quote unquote, keep it together, to control all of their sensory, either if they're overstimulated or understimulated. And if they get overstimulated somewhere and they have a meltdown, that's hard. And sometimes there's nothing you can do to prevent that. And I think accepting that as parents and as educators, and making kind of a plan of your own mindset of, okay, I know this is probably going to cause a difficult situation. Here's how I'm going to handle it. And we're going to work through it. So there will still be hard times, and that's okay. Because like I just said, sometimes there are thorns, but that rose is still beautiful. And I want that rose in my garden. I want lots of roses in my garden, even if they have thorns. So that's strategy number 8. This video was a little bit longer than my other ones in this series. Again, the whole series is on neurodiversity and neurodivergence. And I am so happy that you're here. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you can see my passion and my love for this particular field, this idea of, how beautiful neurodiversity is, and wanting to be able to help my students learn how to advocate for themselves. I feel like that is kind of my role. I don't want to try to advocate for them necessarily. I don't want to take away their voice or be their voice, but I do want to teach them how to use their voice and how to have those words that they need. And so part of that is by sharing some of this information with other speech pathologists or parents or caregivers or other educators who also want to help their students, their neurodivergent students, have a voice. They already have a voice. Help them have the words to use their voice and to communicate efficiently as possible. Okay. Again, the survey that I talked about, the sensory survey, is linked in the description. And again, this was part of a series. So if you've missed the other videos, please go back and watch them. And I'm going to go ahead and awkwardly sign off.